I believe that the book of Genesis is one of the most important and yet neglected books in all of Scripture. All of the beauty and all of the glory of the universe had a beginning, and it had a beginner. Our culture has a view of who God is, and it is deeply flawed. God is the originator of all that is. True, sound theology must always start with God. We must remember that the New Testament gives us the lens that we need to correctly understand the Old Testament. What a great truth to see that the work of God that we see in Genesis chapter 1 is actually being done by Christ, by Jesus. God creates a garden. In the middle of this garden, you could find a pair of trees. We'll see that God will now make a covenant with Adam. God is the one who assigns purpose and function to every aspect of his creation. God is the one who has the sovereign right, the sovereign authority to set boundaries, moral and otherwise, for his creation. The moment that they sinned, the moment that they fell to temptation, they immediately felt the effects of sin set in on them. What we see here is that the world has suddenly drastically changed. We caught a glimpse of Adam's faith in God's promise. God responded to this faith by showing Adam the reality of sin's consequences and at the same time providing for Adam's needs. The first sacrifice was performed by God himself. For the sake of covering man with something sufficient, for the sake of covering man with something that was adequate for his needs. Nobody had faith in God in the whole earth. All turned away from him, and Abraham, or Abram, was no exception. But God chose Abram. And you might think that somebody like Abram, think about it, he's the man who's known as the father of the faith, would never struggle with doubts. But nothing could be further from the truth. Over and over, God has reassured him of his promises. Even Abram struggled with feeling like there was a lack of assurance. Abraham struggled with old habits. Abraham struggled with going back to the same sin over and over and over again throughout his life. He had a long-standing habit of taking matters into his own hands in situations where what he should have done is just trusted God, or at least sought God's counsel. And tragically, we see Isaac respond to this hardship, to this famine, with the same lack of faith that Abraham demonstrated when he was faced with the exact same predicament. So why does God bless Isaac rather than cursing him? For the same reason that the Father laid the iniquities, laid the sins of his people upon Jesus Christ, and then poured out his wrath in full against him, crushing him. He does it because it pleased him to do so.